Now, it's a problem all of us face from time to time, especially in sport and often politics. How do you bounce back when it all goes wrong? Performance coach Andrew May joins us now with his advice on resilience this morning. Andrew, good to see you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Bouncing back.
Yeah, that's the psychological definition of resilience, is an individual's ability to bounce back from stressful or an adverse situation. So you mentioned politics, you mentioned sport, you mentioned business, you mentioned life. We all need to be able to bounce back at times because the reality is sometimes life's hard.
How do you prepare yourself for that? Or can you prepare yourself? Can you build into yourself resilience?
Yeah, it's not a trait, so it is trainable. So there's a number of things we can do. And Michael, it's more of an umbrella term. So if I have 5 meetings with 5 companies, I'll have 5 different definitions of resilience. But if we look at the psychological or the positive psychological constructs, so one is hardiness, the other one is grit, and the other one is self-efficacy. Big words, but hardiness means the ability to find meaning in the challenges in life. Grit is that, that mental toughness we have to follow stuff despite adversity. And the final one is self-efficacy, a healthy dose of self-belief. Sprinkle that with a bit of optimism, and there's your answer. So think about politics.
Yes.
You need those 3 things, don't you? Hardness, grit, self-efficacy, and just this unnerving belief.
Self-belief.
Can you see some examples in politics at the moment of those who clearly have a higher ability to bounce back than others?
You're opening up the trapdoor for me, so
Yes.
let's go. Yes,
Yeah.
maybe one former PM is going to be doing triathlons.
Yes.
And you look at hockey. I don't think it's been confirmed
Hockey,
yet.
you mean?
Joe
Yeah.
Hockey, yeah, but probably going to be overseas with a diplomatic posting.
And he seems to be bouncing back. Do you
I think he's
think?
bouncing back very well, has handled it well. From the moment they lost power, saying that we're moving forward, look at what's happening.
Yep.
Our well-dressed PM at the moment, I think that's a really good example in resilience. So he's sat there, he's been very, very sort of strong on his opinions and has got the troops around him. He's held belief.
And self-belief, he lost the Liberal leadership by 1 vote back in 2009. Another example that springs to mind is John Howard, who thought he had no shot of being Prime Minister at all in his dark days of the late 80s and early 90s, and went on to serve 11 years.
Big fan of John Howard. When I worked with cricket, he'd always be there, walking around early in the morning in his Aussie tracksuit. So, and you look at some of the constructs underneath that. That's the psychological ones. But what you're saying about training it, it's not just your mindset. It's how you look after yourself. It's your relationships you have with other people, the experiences you have in life.
I'm very interested in you saying that it's not a psychological mindset or a personality trait, because I think I would have assumed that it was, because you see people around you, those who can let stuff slide off them and those who just can't. Now, I would have thought they were set personality types, no?
No. Well, if you have parents who have flexible thinking, if you have parents who, when you fall down, give you support, and if you have parents who have mainly an optimistic disposition in life, you've got a head start, but it doesn't mean that just because you've got parents who were or weren't resilient that you can't train it. That's one of the big things that has come out in the last 5 or 10 years, especially with positive psychology, that you can train resilience. You can AFL terms, you can learn to kick off the opposite foot. And we've done the happiness pie before with Sonia Labrowski. About 50% of happiness is your genetics, the other 40% is lifestyle.
And you work on it. You've got 5 bouncing back tips for us, Andrew. Flexible thinking was number 1 on the list. And how flexible do you need to be?
At times vary. So, look at life, relationships, love, everything in between. We can't just be black and white in our thinking. And again, if we just get outside politics, look at people like Oprah, J.K. Rowling. That's right. Got lots and lots of examples of people who bounce back.
Other tips: supportive relationships, health and fitness, reflect. I like the last one. Harden up. What's that mean?
Yeah, look, and I'll put an asterisk on that one because it doesn't mean that you don't just say to someone, Virginia, you need to harden up. Because
well, you
sometimes,
could say that, but I'd probably smack you.
Yeah, probably. So the harden up, sometimes we just need to actually take a step back and go, you know what, I've had a bit of a pity party. I've felt sorry for a while. It's time to move on. The asterisk, though, means if people have got mental health issues, stress, anxiety or depression, saying to people like that, Michael, you know what, you just need to build a bridge, get a straw, harden up, is actually damaging. So make sure you have context. The one before we go that I really want to just take a little bit of time on is number 4, reflect. More and more research is coming out because we're so busy. We go from one segment to the next. We drop and drag society. Slow down, reflect. So a lot of research that's come out from Dan Siegel, who's really a global guru in this, says
he's
just
terrific,
pause, reflect, take time, look at the ocean, look at the park, and that gives meaning in life. And we go back to the definition about hardiness and grit. You don't realise what you've got until you slow down. So we actually need to pause, reflect, have a cup of tea, and really look at what we've got and make meaning of it.